What would you do then to protect yourself now before this rush out of the dollar happens that you think might happen?
You got to look, invest in foreign stocks. Look at emerging markets are crushing it this year, more than double the return on the S&P, and they're still cheap. So there's a lot of economies that are going to benefit from a weak dollar. Also, developed markets, if you like bonds, fine, but don't buy bonds of the United States. Maybe look at Singapore, look at New Zealand. Keep your maturity short because the rates are still low globally.
Why hasn't the collapse come yet? And what will the trigger be?
People were saying that to me about the housing market. Peter, you've been talking about this bubble for years. Why haven't it collapsed? Bubbles get bigger than you think.
That's
but
true.
Eventually they pop and the air comes out. And so why is it taking so long? I don't know. Usually the bigger they are, the longer it takes to pop. I mean, the whole world is caught up in this hysteria. And, they've been able to keep interest rates artificially low, but eventually they're going to lose control. Eventually interest rates are going to go up, and that's going to expose the forest because we can't pay when interest rates go up. We're too broke.
No.
We can barely afford to pay now. In fact, we can't afford to pay now because the U.S. government has to borrow the money to pay the interest on the money it's already borrowed.
Peter, if you could make a phone call to the 20-year-old Peter Schiff and give that young man a bit of advice, what would you tell him?
I should have just gone through college. I mean, if I wasn't going to go back, I didn't need my degree. My degree didn't do anything for me, job-wise. But it just seemed like it was I shouldn't have just stayed off those 2 years. I should have just gone through and maybe I'd have gotten a better job. I don't know. I mean, maybe getting a good job. I didn't get a good job out of college, and maybe had I gotten a good job, maybe I'm better off today because nobody hired me and I was kind of on my own. But there's a lot of mistakes that have been made in business. But I think though, as far as understanding the big picture of the economy, I mean, I've gotten that right, and so that part. But obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, I mean, I could have participated in the dot-com bubble. I could have participated in the housing bubble, and I could have made more money shorting them, right? Because I would have known exactly when they were going to burst. So obviously, if somebody could tell you, 30 years later, hey, this is what's going to happen for the next 30 years, you're not going to do anything wrong. If you do it one step at a time, you can actually make a lot more money, because I start thinking too far ahead. I start overestimating the intelligence of everybody else to figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Instead, people seem to remain oblivious longer than you would think. You want to rent. For a lot of people, renting makes a lot more sense. But if you do buy a home, I would suggest putting as little money down as possible, having the longest mortgage you can get fixed at the lowest rate you can qualify for. Because where you will make money is not as a homeowner. You're going to lose as a homeowner. You'll make money as a debtor because your debt will be wiped out if there's a lot of inflation. But the cost of upkeeping and maintaining your home is going to go up, because the materials are going to go up. The utility costs are going to go up. So you might end up having to rent out a room to cover some of those expenses. But one problem you won't have is your mortgage. The prices are going up, 5-10% a year minimum, sometimes 20% a year. So to the extent that you can buy it now and store it, you're going to save a lot of money. I mean, it's better than leaving your money in the bank. And you don't have to pay income taxes. If I buy a box of cornflakes and, when I eat it, the cornflakes are 30% more expensive than when I bought it, I don't have to write the IRS a check for my gain. So, if you have the room, there's no reason not to buy things in advance when prices are rising. But also, if we do have runaway inflation, it's possible the government tries to contain it with price controls. Now, it won't work, but it will create shortages.
But Bitcoin is not a store of value because it has no value to store. What Bitcoin is a speculative digital asset that's value is based on what people are willing to pay for it. And people are willing to pay over $9,000 for a Bitcoin today. Why? Is there anything they can do with it? No. All they can do is hold it until they sell it to somebody else. And people are buying it because they think they can sell it to somebody else for a higher price in the future. I think gold and silver mining stocks right now, I think for the people who don't just want to hedge, but they want to really make money, they don't want to just preserve their wealth, they want to compound their wealth. I think you have a great opportunity now in the gold mining sector.
Is for these young libertarians, what would you tell them if they were looking for very first investing advice? Like the idea that, I want to invest, I'm a young libertarian, but where do I begin? What would you tell them?
But the important thing is just to
do your homework and make sure that you understand what you're investing in and understand why you're buying it, particularly if it's a stock. And there's a lot of minefields out there in the investment universe. There's a lot of ways to lose money, and you don't want to just lose your money, because then you're going to probably end up not investing. So got to be cautious and work with somebody who knows what they're doing. I mean, hopefully we get a lot of young libertarians opening up accounts with Euro Pacific Capital and Euro Pacific Precious Metals, so that we can help them find the right investments.
I think that a lot of people are interested in investing in legalized pot and dispensaries like that. What are your thoughts on some of these new technologies and new investing opportunities?
Well, you always have to be cautious about some of these higher risk ventures. I don't know, maybe there'll be some money to be made in the pot industry. I mean, I don't know. There's certainly not going to be a lot of barriers to entry, so there could be a lot of competition. There's still a lot of legal problems associated with those businesses, at least in the United States. I'm not a big fan of the cryptocurrencies, so I think there's going to be a lot more losses. Certainly people that got in early, that got in years ago, are cashing out, and they made a good amount of money getting in early. I don't think you're getting in early now. There are people that do believe that it's going to get a lot bigger, though, but my gut feeling on it is that's not going to be the case.